So hello and welcome everybody. In today's video I am going to talk about the Parliament Hill ley line, which runs right from Parliament Hill all the way along through Highgate into Alexandra Palace and then on to Enfield. And we're not going to go the Enfield direction, we're going to go towards Parliament Hill, which is about a 3.5 mile walk, and we're going to walk down and see all the sights along it. The interesting thing about this ley line and where this ley line goes through is all the sites have been destroyed. There's a story of a Highgate vampire on this ley line, a very incredible cemetery which is called Highgate Cemetery as well. So there's kind of just inversion points put along this ley line, and that's what I'm kind of going to investigate today, and also make people aware of this ley line. You may even know this location yourself and travel along it and then wonder why so many times you've been on this location. Well, it's all connected to previous lives, this life, and all sorts of connections to your spiritual path, and these ley lines are connected to that. I'm just standing in front of the Alexandra Palace, which is an incredible building. This was built just after the Great Exhibition apparently. I've actually done a video on this palace and the history to it, and you can check that out as well on my channel. But anyway, let's get started. Let's have a look over London and see where one of these ley lines, Alexandra Palace, where it looks over, because it's incredible. So you've got, that's the City of London, you can see right over, and there's another ley line actually over that spot as well. It runs right through Canary Wharf, and these are kind of the main economic centres of England, if not Europe to that matter, if not the world. I mean, I don't know if it's still the case, but I believe 98% of the world's wealth passes through that city. And it's almost like an entity of its own. Same with Canary Wharf. These are like little mini cities or mini hives, if you like, in London. They have their own districts, their own kind of security systems. It's very strange. But that once was, the City of London was a very sacred city and a very ancient city, but it's just been built upon with all these monoliths. This is one of the sacred mounds of London, and this goes back thousands of years, this location. And obviously before even Alexandra Palace was built, this was around. I've time-lapsed this area for over the last 20 years. I actually have video footage going back to 2000, which I'll put up, which is a clip of Docklands Canary Wharf, just one tower. Quite amazing, to be honest, to see how this landscape's kind of been built up over the last, well, I mean, 25, 30 years. What I've noticed over photographing for a long time is you'll see the cycles of light and how they hit the buildings. So particularly at sunset, sunrise, and obviously with the peak points, solstices and equinoxes, you'll find that this light will go around the building in a certain way. So it's almost like, as you can see there, the Shard is one of them. All these buildings are designed in a way so the light hits them in a way and it reacts. But again, this is all out there, this information, once you actually study it. The actual site starts in a place called the St Andrew's Parish Church in Enfield. So these are the starting points to this ley line. It obviously would reconnect somewhere else, but this goes right the way down to Parliament Hill. And where we're at now, it is actually on Alexandra Palace Hill. And the next place we're going to go to is St Joseph's Chapel. And this is one of the ley lines. And then you've got the site of Highgate, the summit of Highgate Hill, and then you have the summit of Parliament Hill, which we'll end up on, which is again is another high viewpoint looking over London, which is a very powerful lay point. So yeah, we're just walking along away from Alexandra Palace now, and it's not exactly the ley line completely, because obviously the way the roads are built and the paths are built and stuff like this. So, and I haven't brought my dowsing rods either, so I'm not going to be, I haven't got time to dowse and work out exactly where the line is, but it definitely passes through this spot and goes right up towards Highgate. And I'm going to go right, I'm just basically going to walk along this line in the straightest way possible that I can from Alexandra Palace to Highgate. And I know a really good route, and you're going to have a lot of fun on this, so check out some of these locations. It'll be good for a lot of joggers. People come up this area to chill out. And over in this way is actually a sacred tree, which is absolutely beautiful, which we're going to go and take a look at. So let's go. In my eyes, this was actually a sacred grove, or a sacred spot at some stage. I actually made a film in here for The Longest Night, which is on my channel, you can see. And I found this spot always very magical, and it's definitely got something very enchanted about it. And it's the way, I'm not sure what those trees are, but they definitely are some sort of, I think it might be a Tyburn tree, but they are very ancient trees. And there's 2 particular trees here, and the rest just seem like spruce pines and various other types of trees, but this is definitely some sort of portal. It's definitely not something we can just access straight off, but I believe if you could activate this area or go into some very deep meditation, there is definitely something in here. And this is situated next to the palace, and very, very interesting space, very interesting to like feel. And there's definitely a feeling of kind of peace here, some sort of rejuvenation, maybe something we can access. This goes straight on, so we're just walking along this path now, and we're going on to actually where the old rail tracks are, which is in the video, in the Alexandra Palace video, where I talk about the old train station that was there. So the exact spot, I'm not exactly sure, but this was where the Muswell Hill train station once was. Nice cement road over the top of it. Whole rail track just gone, like literally just erased. And this is the bypass underneath. But once, I'd imagine this would have been the level for the actual train that actually run through. We're actually going to walk onto the train tracks, these old train tracks that were disused just before World War I, I believe, or maybe just after. The thing is, why would you build a whole train line and then suddenly abolish it? It doesn't seem practical to me. Now, the whole Alexandra Palace station and all this, let's just throw it out there and suggest that maybe there were things in or around this line that somebody didn't want people to know about them. It would make sense that you'd probably build something on top. But this is a whole old train track. We're going to walk along, and again, the sights. It must have been a spectacular train journey coming along here. But yeah, this would have led up to the palace. So when the World Fair was on, this would have actually kind of led right up to the palace and actually taken people to the palace. Now, I understand that things need to change and reality shifts, but the very sad thing about this is the destructive nature of this, and how the destruction of these ley lines. And you should be clear on that. People need to see that with their own eyes. This isn't development. And it has got worse over time, all right? And that disturbs me a lot, you know? Like, our history is really important that we understand it and understand what we are on this planet. What I'm walking along now, you can see this is actually an old train line. Passes over a beautiful viewpoint. This would have been the old train track. Yeah, it's just fascinating. This actually goes, the line would have gone all the way down to Finsbury Park originally. So this goes on to Highgate. We're only going to go to the Highgate side, but we're going to go up to Highgate Woods, Queen Woods, and sort of pass through that area and then onto Highgate Hill. I was actually kind of brought up around this area in my teenage years anyway, so I kind of know. I had some strange experiences which I'm going to discuss, but it's very odd. Sort of Queen's Wood is a very bizarre area. I had some very interesting interactions in there. Cranley Gardens, and this was actually where they had, once there was a station here, so there's actually a rail station right here, and this is on the line, same line towards Alexandra Palace. Again, let's just have a little look at what they're building here. I mean, I know we need housing, but there are other things we could build on the ley line, reinforcing the property market. This isn't exactly the ley line, by the way, so this is might be slightly off, but it's along the same line, Highgate Woods. And again, it's not exactly on the same spot, but it's just kind of along the same sort of line. And it might be slightly to the right, this, but we're going to go over to Highgate Hill in a minute, which is another one of the points. It's a really beautiful wood, this, but the interesting thing that gets me about this wood, and like all the sacred woods of London, they're owned by the City of London. And I find that fascinating, the way this, you know, they preserve that knowledge, you know. And if you know about where the historic records are kept to certain, you know, one interesting one is Paracelsus of the 15th century. And if you look into that, look at where the records are stored. It's only, ultimately, I understand why knowledge is kept from people and held back, but keeping things as secrecy is very dangerous, not only for the people keeping it secret, but for the society around it as well. As I always say, it's down to people's own ignorance, because all this information that I'm saying is pretty public, it's nothing hidden. but people don't want to look into it. People don't choose to look into it. And you'll see where the planet will lead if we don't look at this information. It might not be the exact ley line, but it may be like 200-300 meters off either side. But this definitely is. The actual where the ley centre goes through now is probably some very wealthy, abundant houses, maybe. So I find that interesting, the way knowledge disappears, and then, you know, it's actually our job to resurface it and bring it back to help people remember. But then people get afraid because they think because it's been hidden, it's not something we're meant to know about. But I don't think that's the case. So there we have it again, you see, Corporation of London. Things like Epping Forest as well. That's another one owned by the Corporation of London. Obviously they got some money to look after it. 1886. Just come down from Highgate, I've kind of moved around, but actually we missed Kingswood, but Kingswood is opposite. This is Queenswood. So they sort of lie side by side each other. And this is where, I know in Queenswood, I'm not sure about Kingswood, but this is where all the plague victims were buried, and the men with the big pointed beaks, you know, actually stood there with a very strange, eerie sticks and kind of monitored their death. Very odd period, the plague. And basically, yeah, this is where they were buried, and obviously other locations around London, but this is very haunted. And my own personal experience, I'm walking down a hill at the moment, so it's a little bit iffy, but my own personal experience of being in this wood is, as a teenager, I actually experienced a really scary moment where me and a friend were having a fire around here, and the whole fire, after it had burnt out, ended up in the shape of a baby's carcass. Now, explain it what you will, we weren't drunk, we weren't high, we weren't anything. This was like over 25 years ago, and I didn't even know about the plague at that time, about the history to this wood. But that was absolutely incredible, and we just ran. We ran for our lives. We were very scared. Now, there's lots of strange things that happen in this wood, and it's quite a spooky, bizarre area. Again, only really if you're kind of aware of it. A lot of people just walk their dogs as normal around here and don't really kind of consider what is the history to this place. But yeah, there is immense history to this area. Highgate, all around here. But yeah, I think if you bury dead bodies under a ground, of course there's going to be spirits and hauntings in that area. But again, this is placed on that ley line or very close to it, and this is the same Parliament Hill ley line. So we're going over towards Parkland Walk, which was kind of, again, sort of parallel to Kingswood and sort of, or next to Kingswood and Highgate. And this kind of leads on to the next location that we're going to go on. It's actually where Parkland Walk, kind of, there once was an old railway bridge right along here. And I'm just going to go and put it over. But yeah, this is surreal, because this was an ancient bridge, and obviously it's gone because of the danger to it, the danger on the road. But yeah, this was here for years. And walking up towards Highgate now. So again, this whole area, I'm going to put some old pictures up as well and show you how there was certain magnet type structures that were built. So actually, ever since lockdown, actually they put up these gated bits, because unfortunately people jump off this bridge, and very sad really, but you know, there's been a lot of unhappy people in recent years especially. Yeah, this is definitely old world architecture. Again, the exact time periods, not exactly sure for building this, but around the 1800s. This again has got a beautiful view. I'm not saying this exactly is a lay point, certainly is along the same kind of line, this Parliament Hill line. And you can see there you've got the City of London, which is a stunning view, beautiful. As much as they may be monoliths and just these kind of quite boring looking buildings, it is still incredible to look at, and it does fascinate me, the architecture of it all still, even though it isn't that old world architecture. This whole area, I've got some old pictures which I'm putting up on the screen. This was some sort of gateway originally. Again, this bridge was built in the 1800 period. I don't believe that, from some of the old pictures, because there was actually other structures around it. And this is, again, has just been a repurposed bit. But I just find it interesting, again, like we're talking about the inversion. But this I reckon was some sort of gateway once, and it was actually a gateway into London. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's just the way some of the old pictures made me think of that. It's just an idea. This is, again, on that lay point, Parliament Hill lay line. So if we just walk the other way and walk over the bridge, and this is along the line, we start coming into Highgate. And, well, we are actually in Highgate, but not like the centre. We're just on the outsides of Highgate. You can see here, you've got this lovely dome spire. I definitely believe we were using the ether of some sort in the old world, but it's just so far out for people to believe and understand. We've got Waterlow Park as well, which is incredible, and next to that, and that's kind of in between Highgate Cemetery and the St. Joseph Chapel. And you can see again another type of church over there. So I've never actually seen this side to it, but just look at that window. Unbelievable, amazing. That is probably Prince Albert, maybe, who knows. Now it's not, maybe not that area where the Highgate Vampire is. It's definitely round this section though, which is very interesting because it's right next to this node. And obviously what we're talking about, this inversion of ley lines, and the way these negative situations have been put on top of them, that kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? So this would be on the summit of the hill, which looks out over the city, and a lovely structure, amazing. And once that stained glass would have been very different, very, very different. And that's been rebuilt, you can see, 100%. It's not to say that every single spire and aspect of any dome is necessarily old world, but it's definitely that we had a period of time where these domes were built and they were used for a purpose, and they were built in a certain way. There's definitely domes that have been built and were not used for this ether energy. There we go, spires everywhere. There is spires all over this area. All the old houses, you know, it's all over the place around Highgate, Hampstead, and there's some very old world looking buildings. This is Waterlow Park, right next to the St. Joseph Chapel. Yeah, again, these parks were used, I believe, for a way for electroculture, and the way they're designed and the way they're put out in the world is they're designed in a certain way to bring up this telluric energy and actually enhance it. And you can see, which in a minute, you've got this layout of the park and the fountains, and yeah, there's a whole kind of sacred geometry structure to it. And you know, all the way once these gardens was they actually used them for ways to enhance growth. But over, especially the last 150 years, it's all been forgotten about. But electroculture is very real, and it's not any myth, but we've kind of dismissed it because it doesn't fit the science that we see. These places just go into dilapidation, and then they're just completely forgotten about. And then, you know, public funded, eventually all that stops, and they get houses built on top of them. And that's probably what will happen at this place as well. And again, we just forget about that part, it's erased. And that's on the entrance to the gardens we've just been in. But there is some very old parts to this park, and again, we can never actually know what exactly that is, because obviously it's buried underneath loads of different, loads of structures and trees and whatnot. We'll never actually find out what the truth of that is. But you can see these little ponds as well, and these were, you know, these were all over London, these types of parks. So much, I mean, the level of building, and I know there was a lot of building and infrastructure built in the 1800s, but there was also a lot knocked down. And I just find it strange with the populations and the people that are in London at the time. Once you see that, you got here, you got some of these old ponds. And you can see all sorts down here. Once very ancient streams. Coming up towards Highgate Cemetery, and this is actually right next door to Waterlow Park, which is sandwiched in between St. Joseph's. And again, Highgate Cemetery, so much has been rebuilt on this bit, and what fascinates me with this area is some of the tombs and some of the old structures inside Highgate Cemetery, and you realise that maybe that these were old world structures and then again repurposed. And I believe years and years ago that this was once a very sacred site, and this site has been inverted. I wish I could go in there, but I'm just going to have to gather some pictures online and some old pictures. The story was when I actually visited this spot when I was about 17, 18 with a group of friends on Halloween, and there were actually people running around in this section with cloaks on, and there was something much bigger going on in this spot. So from first-hand experience, and I wasn't aware of anything at that time, and obviously we know that goes on, but that was very spooky, and I've heard of that in many places from other people as well. So this goes on, and you just wonder what is the purpose of this. So yeah, this is Waterlow Park, and fascinating area. I just wonder what is underneath it. That's what surprised me. And we're just going to go down towards Highgate Cemetery now, and we won't be able to go in Highgate Cemetery, unfortunately. This is Highgate Cemetery. And it just makes you wonder, what were these before? Maybe they were restructured or repurposed. They are all gravestones, of course. Some of these tombs are very interesting. I wonder whether or not they are. There's some amazing graveyards around London, and we will be doing more on some of that as well at some stage, because it's quite shocking actually to see how many there is around. There's some, especially West London, and weird history as well to them. To finish up, we're going on to Parliament Hill, which is on Hampstead Heath, owned by the City of London again. So yeah, here we are. So yeah, all over this area there is old world architecture. Now, in the winter time it's a lot easier to sort of identify it because you can see it, but all over around the heath and all this area, you've got Kenwood House not far away, and these were all centres at one point or some point and have been kind of slowly deleted over many years and kind of forgotten about. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's where, look what we got to now. Look where society and the world is. And this hasn't benefited us, has it? And I wish people could see that. I really wish, I'm really hoping that people can understand how we can't let that happen, you know. But it's your choice. This is just me giving my words of wisdom from what I've experienced over my life. I think maybe because people kind of fear it too much and get worried, and they're too in their comfort zones and stuff like this. Oh yeah. And you know, yeah, it's kind of gone a bit pear-shaped, haven't we? And we should question all this. We should question why this has happened. And I believe these are the answers. We've forgotten, or we've allowed something to be removed from this world without even realizing it, and we just carry on. We just move along as normal because we're so caught up in the drama of what we have to do now, you see. There's so much going on, and the pressure of money and all this, and it's really sad that people get caught up in that as well, because that's an illusion. I mean, we've all got to earn money, we've got to make money. That's not difficult, but it's really actually finding the love for what you want, and we've lost that love, and this is all connected to that. But anyway, look, we're going to get up to Parliament Hill in a minute. I'm not going to speak as I'm walking up it, because as you can hear, I'm getting a little bit out of breath. Done about 4 miles, which is about 6-7 kilometres, I suppose, and yeah, getting a bit tired now, but I'm nearly up the top of the hill, and then I'll show you guys this lovely view of Parliament Hill, which some of you might recognise from the films. Couldn't resist to get the camera out, but yeah, this is definitely the ley line, like a pilgrimage, that we all kind of went to this hill and the druids would meet, and there would be a druidic council there. You know, it's so far away from where we are now, and it's a little bit covered with trees, you can see, but it's quite a lovely spot, and it's all these gatherings of people come up here and chill out. Absolutely stunning view. I've actually walked down just a little bit because you can't see much on top of the hill, but this is the final ley line, and this, as you can see, even just down a little bit further from the top, actually at winter time you can see so much further and see so much more, but it is absolutely stunning. I mean, you've got pretty much half of London there being shown up, and it's incredible space. And you know, I've lived in London a long time, so I've seen the way London's developed, I've seen the changes over London, and I can see how these things have been placed on these ley lines. You know, I can see how certain inversions do happen. Obviously, I'm not defying that we need to build and we need to create infrastructure, of course we do, but there is just some very extreme situations in London where very beautiful places has almost been inverted, all the energy is being diverted. As crazy as it all is, we live in the moment, and this is where we are now, so we can only remember all this old world in that way and see how we can incorporate and bring them old world ideas and concepts into this world. And they were I feel that they were left here for us to remember, and whatever it is, because it's something very strange, I'll be honest. The whole situation is very bizarre. You know, that's looking at official stories and uncovering certain facts and figures that don't make sense and how things don't add up within this kind of certain parts of the system. So that's the conclusion of the Parliament Hill ley line, and this ley line is incredible. Been here for thousands of years. It's part of the Earth's grid. It's built into the Earth's energy. The Earth being Gaia, this planet we're on. You know, this beautiful planet that so many people neglect and so many people are unaware too, including the people at the top of the ladder as well. They're very unaware of what actually this planet is. So this is the way it works, you know, it's part of the reality we live, but incredible to see this this view. I find it interesting to kind of look into them subjects and see how these inversions have happened, and people just disregard them like they don't really matter, but I think they're really important for where we're at now, and this knowledge and history is something that we need to remember. You know, it's not something we can forget. I can't forget it anyway. But please subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also join the members section where there's a lot more content in there, podcasts and various other bits and pieces. I'll be getting on with the films very soon, so hold tight for them, but until next week, I will see you then.